Hello and welcome to the latest installment of Mr. Sustainability. I'm Paul Studebaker, Editor-in-Chief of Sustainable Plant. Our installment today is called Silicon Today or Sandbags Tomorrow. I believe a good cause deserves generous donations of time, effort, and money, and breast cancer awareness certainly qualifies. This year, between the TV specials, the pink ribbons on everything from airports to yogurt containers, the t-shirts, Save the Twins, and even the local Harley Club's Save Second Base rationale for rolling thunderously, I'd say Pink Ribbon Inc. has done a terrific job. Americans demonstrated a very impressive level of concern about mitigating the causes and effects of breast cancer. Meanwhile, worries about climate change have steadily declined, especially in the United States, where less than half of consumers now say they're concerned about global warming. That's not surprising, especially in the current economic recession. We'd rather not be constrained by carbon. At a recent editors' event, Aaron Davis, the Chief Marketing Officer for Schneider Electric, discussed the connection between economic growth and greenhouse gases in what he calls our carbon economy, and how important it is that we deal with the potential threat to the climate while we pull out of the recession through economic growth. He suggests that part of that growth could be provided by the jobs and economic activity needed to improve energy efficiency and move away from carbon-intensive energy supplies. But here in the United States, not only do a lot of us lack the bandwidth to keep energy efficiency on our radar, a lot of Americans view any connection between human activities and global warming as a matter of belief rather than scientific fact. Beliefs are both optional and hard to change. Today, more than 90% of Americans believe in God, but there have been times when believers have felt compelled to defend their position. Writing in the 17th century as a Christian apologist in the face of the Age of Reason, the philosopher Pascal presented what has come to be known as Pascal's Wager, a logical argument for believing in God. Pascal suggested that both the existence and non-existence of God are impossible to prove, so those driven by logic must place a bet, or wager, on God's existence by weighing the possible consequences of believing or not believing. He says the wise decision is to wager that God exists, since, he says, if you gain all. If you lose nothing. Meaning if God exists, you gain an eternal life, and if not, you'll be no worse off in death than if you didn't believe. On the other hand, if you bet against God, win or lose, you've either gained nothing or you lose everything. You're either unavoidably annihilated, in which case nothing matters one way or the other, or you lose the opportunity of eternal happiness. Over the centuries, Pascal's wager has been applied to other questions, and at the press event, Davis applied it to global warming. Consider the worst thing that can happen. If we behave as though global warming is real, and it isn't, we'll still save 30% of our energy consumption, money we can invest at a higher return on investment. If we don't believe human-caused global warming, and it turns out to be real, we'll end up spending more than 10% of global GDP on mitigation just to keep our children from starving or drowning in rising sea levels. Starting right now, it will take more than 10 years to make a dent in the carbon intensity of our generating capacity, and about as long to get our power transmission system to where we can fully integrate distributed generation such as major solar and wind projects. That leaves efficiency of buildings and processes and point-of-use generation as the places where we can make an immediate impact. And that means you. We know we can cut consumption, typically 30%, through familiar approaches such as insulating, stopping leaks, and installing higher efficiency motors, drives, boilers, etc. Much more can be done with advanced technologies, including renewable energy, smart grid, and demand response. Technologies that depend on the silicon found in computer chips, automation controllers, and solar cells. If we don't act, we may have to defend ourselves against those rising sea levels. So Davis presents the situation as silicon today or sandbags tomorrow. There was a time when the only people who gave much thought to breast cancer were its victims. Now millions are pleased to devote their energies, resources, and a full month every year to recognizing the problem, grasping its dimensions, and finding a cure. We would do well to be at least as fascinated by curing our economy, in part by reducing our dependence on carbon-intensive energy. Thank you.